All right, well, welcome back to another edition of our Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candice Smiley, and here we talk about trusting the niggle and telling the truth. Now, my guest today, very exciting human being. He has got an incredible speaking career. He's got more than a few books under his belt, and he's also incredibly entertaining to speak to. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Without any further ado, Bob, let's have a conversation about who you are and how did you get here?
Well, I've been here for a long time now. I've been here for like 15 months, but you're talking about here in terms of my age and what I'm doing. My name is Bob Hooey. I am known as Canada's Idea Man. I have been speaking and training and writing now for, it's been 30 years. Holy mackerel, I hadn't thought of that because I joined Toastmasters originally 30 years ago in March, in the middle or third week of March. I can't remember. So, oh my goodness, it's been 30 years now to start this path, because I had this what I thought at the time was a silly little dream that was driving me, that I wanted to travel the world and encourage people and challenge them to live their lives and to grow and all those kind of things. Although, interestingly enough, you mentioned the books. That was never on my game plan. I never planned on being a writer, let alone a prolific writer. That was I wanted to be a speaker. That was it. I wanted to be a speaker and travel the world. I didn't want to be a writer and sit at home in front of a typewriter. In those days, that's what it would have been, or a computer keyboard. But both happened. It's funny. The speaking started first, and then I was telling somebody the other day, well, what happened? I said, well, I'd be speaking, and people would say, well, do you have a book? And for a while, I said, well, no. And then eventually, I started saying, why? Would you buy one? And they'd say yes. And I thought, And I thought, what can I do? I thought, well, okay, I have some stuff that I've used where I was teaching. I used to teach at some of the colleges in Vancouver when I lived there. And I took one of the booklets and added a little bit to it and made it like a little 60-page spiral bound notebook. And I would sell that for $20 at the back of the room, and sold thousands of them, and then did another one and did another one. And and then back, I can't remember what year it was, that I discovered CreateSpace, which is now Kindle Plus. And I was going to do a program for CAPS Toronto, I think it was Toronto or Ottawa, on how to publish. And I saw this new thing, and it was about doing perfect bound print-on-demand books. And I thought, well, hey, that would be good to talk about. And I thought, well, yeah, I should talk about it, but maybe I should do one.
Maybe we should do one first,
so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
And let's see if I can find that. I pulled that out to show you. And this was the first book that I did. This was actually the 7th version of this book. The first 6 of them were done as spiral bound notebooks. And so then a number of years went on, and I kept doing more books. And then I decided to update it and decided to be a little less egotistical on the front. I just put me on the back. I started off with the first one. I didn't think anybody'd buy it. And again, we sold thousands of the silly things. It's just funny. So then I thought, well, let's do something that's more topic related rather than a Bob Hooey the speaker thing. And I did this one. And then I updated this one in 2015. This was number 8. And what I did there is I had just been speaking in Paris. So I thought, I hate when you're writing a book, I hate these blank pieces at the end of a chapter where you don't have enough to do it and you could write something, and you want to have a new chapter start on a new page. And I thought, what am I going to do with it? So I thought, I got a lot of friends who are speakers. So I started reaching out to people around the world saying, hey, I'm doing an update to this book. Could you give me a paragraph or 3 lines or half a page? And so that's what happened in this one. Let's see if I can find one here just to show you, where somebody would give me something. And here's a little pro tip, just this little piece right here.
I like it.
So all of a sudden, the book is seeded with wisdom from a whole bunch of people from around the world. And then last year, during COVID, I updated it for the one you can see behind me.
And you're back on the cover again.
Yeah, and this is the second time I spoke in Paris.
That's
So
awesome.
speaking of Paris has been good for my writing career.
I was going to say.
This was the first time in Paris.
Yep.
This was the second time in Paris. In fact, that's me back on the stage in Paris.
That's awesome.
So at the Apollo Theater. It was so cool. Yeah, live at the Apollo Theater. You know, it was just fun. And so anyway, it was fun. But that's part of that, and it's just expanded. It's since then. I mean, last year, even though we weren't traveling, was a great year for publishing. Mm-hmm. I did a whole bunch of new books. I did. I don't know where. I can't see that one. Okay, I did one. I did one on writing, just because we were doing a writing course, online writing course. So, you know, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, once you understand the concept. Mm-hmm. And you know what you're doing, you can produce something very quickly. Mm-hmm. Although the reality is, like I tell people when I'm doing this, I just did a program on writing for PSA South Africa 2 weeks ago. And I said, you know, guys, it has never been easier to produce a crappy book than in your life. You know, you can produce a piece of junk overnight, or you can take your time and produce something that's actually worth reading. The choice is yours, and the editing is what makes the difference. So again, that's just been part of what the conversation has been, and part of what the journey has been, is saying, okay, in the last year, because I can't travel, I write and do podcasts and do virtual things with this little rectangle to the
little
world.
Rectangle.
My rectangle to the world, you know.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. And then, like I say, then this year, because I was bored silly, I noticed that people were starting to do journals and stuff. So in a month, I produced 24 journals. Part of that, the biggest part of this, was just coming up with a whole bunch of different titles. Mm-hmm. like Wonder List about traveling and hoping I'll be able to travel again. And here's another one traveling. Travel, explore the world, or writing, not a book yet. I even did a smutty journal called Secret Thoughts. There's nothing in it unless you want to fill it. You can fill it with all your steamy romances that you want, or here's another one, Someday I'll. You have your bucket list. It's just title. And I did 5 different books with quotes. I wish I'd said that, because I collect quotes, and so I just went through my book of quotes and created that.
I wish I'd said that.
It's just fun. It's just fun. You gotta do something to keep your mind active and keep you focused, and as I jokingly say, keep Irene working. So
keep Irene working.
Well, she does all the editing and for this. In fact, she edits for other authors now. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's become a nice little.
I was going to write a book, and now I have this online publication. So, that was, the plot twist of 2020. Well, one of the plot twists for me in 2020. So. Well,
and I've seen your publication. You're writing something in it every month.
I am. Yeah.
So at the end of the year, you'll have 12 of those, and at the end of about a year and a half, you'll have 18. That's probably enough for a book.
I think so. And,
I know so.
You think you know so. Right. You are the boss in this department for sure. But even with some of my Facebook posts that, I think a lot of those people have said you should pull some of these together, these little bite-sized thoughts, and turn it into a book. And I was like,
yeah, you can.
Maybe I am writing and I didn't even realize, but words.
And the thing is, they don't always have to be, full-size books. This one's 38 pages.
Cool.
See the difference between that and that? This is 130 pages. And the reason is I don't go bigger than that is because in Canada, if you have a book that's too big, if you go in to mail a book, they have a little plastic template there. And the book, and it has to slide through a slot. If it slides through the slot, it's about 4 1/4. If it doesn't slide through the slots, it's about 10.50.
Okay.
And that's the difference.
Good to know.
It doesn't matter how good it is. If it, if I have a friend who wrote a book called Great Job or Good Job. and it's about twice the size of this. And he's selling it for $20, and it's costing him $10 to ship every time he sells one.
Yeah.
So he can't make it up in volume.
No.
But that's the thing. This is 38 pages,
So
and
that
eight of them are bio, and
Yeah.
you know, Bob's a nice guy, and here's all of Bob's books, and
Yep.
here's what they say about Bob, and the other 30 pages are the 30 pages of actual content. So yeah, you can do that.
You're inspiring me right now.
And when the time comes, I'll twist your arm.
I'm excited about this. Well, and half the time I just need a, you know, gentle nudge in that direction. I mean, that's what's happened with quite a few good ideas. I have this idea, but I'm not exactly sure I have the resources. But there's a few quotes out there that's typically not the resources, it's the resourcefulness that
Exactly.
whether or not you make it happen. So yeah.
Well, it's kind of like if you build it, they'll come. You know, that movie.
That's what they say. Yeah. That's what they say. I really like that you said you had this little dream, because when you say things like that, I think, well, that's what I've been thinking my whole life.
Yeah.
And so meeting people like you means it goes, well, if it can happen for Bob, it could happen for me.
Yeah.
I just need to hang out with more Bob.
Yeah. Well, and that's absolutely the truth. You become like the 5 or 10. They've said that the 5 or 10 people you spend the most time with. So choose them wisely.
Very wisely.
You know, choose people that are going in the direction that you're going. Because if you're hanging out with a bunch of people and they're going the same direction as you, the way dynamics go is you go with the flow. If they're going the other direction, they hold you back. And so you want people that spur you on, that cheerlead you, that say, hey, Candice, you can do that. You know, that seemingly impossible idea. Well, if you did this, maybe it would be just improbable. And if you did this, maybe it would be possible.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's just a matter of perspective.
Perspective matters a lot. I think about even the things I have accomplished. A lot of time it was because I was just too naive to how much effort it was actually going to be to accomplish the thing. And so I think as I've gotten older, I'm like, how much energy do I actually have? And is this actually moving me toward the direction of where I'd like to be in, 5 years or 10
Well,
years?
and I think that's a legitimate question. I mean, you have to be careful you overextend, because I've done that, not so much lately, but because I'm not traveling, but I used to be doing a lot of this as well as traveling. And then you get tired, you get burnt out.
Yeah.
But also you don't know what you can do until you actually try it.
That's true. Yeah. It is easier to be like, hey, burning out, need a break, I'll come back.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point. You don't have to, it's not like you're that guy that was pushing the stone up the mountain. So if you stop, the stone rolls back, sometimes it's okay to say, I've taken it as far as I need to take it for now. I'll take a break and come back.
Yeah.
It's like Irene has taken up painting. She's been taking online painting courses. And so part of what she's learning is work on it and then leave it and come back later and add to it and then come back later and adapt it and, those kinds of things. So, you'll see some of her paintings in the back now. And I tell her I'm putting them up because I like them, not just because I love you, if I've got art up on my wall, it's not just because it's my kid and I'm proud of my kid, it's different when it's your wife.
Yes.
I'm proud of her, but I put it up because I like it, and because it adds to my environment when I'm in here. But so.
Hey, it's Candice. I hope you're really enjoying the show. I know I certainly am. I want to give a big shout out to one of the products that I absolutely love using. So this is 36-year-old skin, and I am in love with it. Yes, I am wearing a teeny tiny bit of foundation. I'm wearing a little bit of eyeshadow, but in general, I want to go like really, really close. This is my skin. Phenomenal, right? So I recently started using a product called BioCell. BioCell is liquid collagen. Now there's a lot of buzz about collagen right now, but you want to find one that mirrors closest the human kind of collagen. I was super impressed with this particular collagen. This is made with only the sternums of chickens. So that's the, the sternum bone of chickens, in a place that has already ethically and humanely taken care of these chickens. And so we're basically using a part of the chicken that would normally just disappear and be used for other things. I have not got into the collagen world before now, mostly because I know that a lot of the collagens out there, especially the powdered collagen, they have things like cow hooves and pig hooves and noses, and I just wasn't interested in putting that sort of thing in my body. I do try to live a more plant-based lifestyle. This is one of the few products that I allow to have animal in it, but I absolutely love it. I'm also really impressed with the company behind it. They're a values-driven company, and if you know from watching any of my shows, values matter to me. They've got a number of values. One, to be disruptive in the industry, and you know me, I like to be a little bit irreverent and go against the grain once in a while. I also really love that one of their values is humility and compassion, because those are huge and important to me. So if you're looking for a place to spend your money, and no, it's not an arm and a leg, no, it's not an MLM, this is affiliate marketing, which means if you did decide to purchase this product, yes, I would in fact get a small commission, which has nothing to do with your products or your purchase or the price point on the product, to be honest with you. It is simply 10 to 36% for me, depending on how many of this awesome product that I get a chance to move. Also, I'm paid daily, which I think is pretty amazing. So if you're somebody who's looking for some collagen and you just want to be our customer, I have got a $10 code. Drop a link or a comment below, or feel free to message me and I will share with you my link so that you can get $10 off of your first order. If you are somebody who's thinking, hey, I would like to get some product and also like to break into the affiliate game, that's a passion for me. I love teaching women and men, but mostly women, how to master the affiliate game. Once you learn how to do it with one company, you can do it with anything else. So I hope that you're enjoying the show, and without any further ado, back to the show.
You and I share the passion of sharing ideas. You're doing it in writing. You're also doing some of it in speaking. Mm-hmm. That's something I was just talking to some friends today, and as we mentioned before we started, and I told them I miss the people. Yeah. I miss traveling, and I miss speaking, and I miss this is fun. Mm-hmm. This little rectangle is fun. It's kept me sane, but it's not the same as real live breathing people who, when you're speaking, you hear laughter and you hear things and you see them reacting and those kinds of things. And
feed off their energy. You find that one or two people in the crowd that just feed right into you. I love being that person for the speaker. I'm like, connect with me and let's do this. Like, I will be the representative of, your audience. I think that's so much fun.
Well, it's funny. I do that too. And I part of that's the same reason as I sit right down where I can get a good seat and see the speaker, and I'm reacting and encouraging, and because I have been where they are.
We know what it's like to be on the other side.
I want them to succeed.
My person.
And I want them to succeed. Just see, that's a little secret a lot of people don't understand about speakers. The audience doesn't want you to fail. I mean, have you ever gone to something where somebody's going to speak going, man, I hope this guy sucks. No. I hope he's just a horrible speaker. All their butts are in the seat. And I want to just waste an hour of my life,
Yeah.
It's not what they're coming from. No. They want you to succeed. And I think once you understand that, that takes some of the pressure off you. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I learned over the years is, when I first started, it was focused on me because I was trying to figure out what am I going to say? How's it sound? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. And then after a while, I started saying, okay, it's about them. Mm-hmm. It's about the audience. What can I give them that will entertain them, will educate them, or will inspire them?
Yeah.
And if I do one of those three, I'm having a good day. If I do all three, I've had an amazing day.
Amazing. Yeah.
And that keeps me going.
For me, when I realized that most people would never find the courage to get up and they'd say, well, I can't do what you do. And I would think, well, how cool is that I can get up here and say the things that you might want to say. Yeah. And I always enjoyed chatting with people beforehand and sort of being more at the back of the room. That's my introvert sort of style, is not to engage too much and but still I'd end up talking to people and then would end up going up the front saying I was talking to, where are they? And I loved that interaction with the crowd. And they were like, oh my gosh, we just talked about this. And I
Yeah.
was often amazed at the people who showed up for a particular talk.
Yeah.
Even the conversations in the room would often loop back to the topic, and how neat that was just in terms of, synergistic.
Well, and the fun part of that, you can play with the audience, because if you get to know them, if you take the time
Yeah.
to get to know people, you can play with them. Like, for example, I remember OK Tire brought me to Cancun to speak to their dealers one year in I think it was December or January or something. It was a cold time of the year, so I was willing to do it for full fee and stay for 5 days. Just a nice kind of guy that I am. And so the first day they had a receiving line, and the executives were in a receiving line, and they were shaking hands with all the dealers. And I just sat at the end of the line and shook hands with every single person that came through. And, hi, I'm Bob Hooey. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And, and the guys were going like, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting to know the people I'm going to talk to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. Some of them are still friends. So, or the other thing, I remember once I was doing something for Alberta Highways, and where was it? It wasn't in Jasper. It was just outside of Jasper, I think in Hinton, because I think in those days they weren't allowed to do it in the park for some reason, because that would look bad because they were going to Jasper. So they were having it in Hinton. And the first night that we were there, before the thing started, they had a bus, and they took us to Mayat Hot Springs. So I jumped on the bus with them, and I'm talking to a couple of ladies in the pool. And where are you from? Are you with this division or that division or this division? No. And I just said, well, I just saw the bus and I thought I'd come up and go for a swim. And then the next day I get introduced as the speaker.
Yeah.
And the lady goes, don't you dare. And I said, so I played on it. I said, Susan told me I couldn't say anything about what we talked about yesterday, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
And everybody laughed, including her, and we had fun. But I mean, that's the whole point. If you're doing live, I miss that, because you don't seem to do that when we're doing it on Zoom. You don't have that byplay.
No.
And that, I think for me, that takes away from the experience.
Mm-hmm.
This is good, but the other is still better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we're all pretty eager for those, to come back. And I mean, that was certainly fun for me. Even if I wasn't speaking, I enjoyed putting on events.
Yeah. Well, that would be good too.
And, hosting those things, right? And how many times, Bob, we'd get there and they'd say, oh, we don't have anybody to host this, or, our hostess isn't feeling up to it, or, so-and-so isn't ready. And I'd be like, well, I was raised to pray, preach, or die all in 5 minutes. So I'm good. Give me the script, give me the name so I don't butcher it up on stage. And off we go. I always thought it was great fun to just go up there and wing it.
And now somebody I know nothing about.
Who I just introduced, and forgive me, I'm going to butcher the name, and people typically loved that human element of it.
I'm going to show you how creative I am in saying people's names. Yeah. So just enjoy. I mean, you may never have heard of these people before. Maybe you know them already, but you've never heard of them before, because you're hearing a different name now than you've heard before.
Than you've ever heard.
But that's fun.
Yes, great fun.
But that's the thing, like with your writing, you could be doing stuff like that. You've got people that are writing for you. Mm-hmm. You could be doing things like this, where you have, every so often, you can have a little summit with your writers.
We'd like to have a summit. That's on our to-do list.
Okay, good idea.
But I want to give myself lots of leeway and promotional time, because as an event planner, people would always plan something and there'd never be enough time to get it all done. And,
exactly. Well, you want to get a few more issues under your belt too, but that doesn't mean you can't do that in the future, and that's good. So I'm glad you're thinking about that, because that's what I was thinking.
Good.
Good idea.
Well, and it's fun to sort of loop back around, and I tease, because people say, well, you're going to do events eventually, and I was like, guys, my career has been about events, so of course I'd loop back around. But to be honest, the monthly publication feels like an event. It feels like we're prepping with the hours and getting everything organized, and
again, don't wear yourself out. I mean, you have a daughter now.
I do.
That takes a certain amount of time, and it should.
It does. Yeah, no, and I enjoy that. I enjoy being an entrepreneur. I enjoy that unlike so many of the moms I know, and that's their choice, and they're choosing powerfully for themselves. But for me, I like knowing that, for maybe 3 hours a day, she and I are hanging out holding space while I'm working, rather than, that's the only 3 hours I'm seeing her all day. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
a lot of inspiration.
Well, and the thing is that that's important as you get older. I'm speaking from someone who's older. You look back on some of this and go, okay, yeah, that's where the time would have been better spent.
Yes.
So now I'm spending the time doing things like that are more important, even though I don't have as much time left. The time that I'm investing is probably more usable now and more impactful now than it used to be.
Yeah. It certainly had an impact on the projects I do to take on. It's it weighs, because I know that time is a non-renewable resource. So once it's spent, it's not coming back.
Nope.
And yeah, I'm very cognizant of that one for sure.
Well, and on the other side of that, and I'll say that because I know some people like me when I used to be, you're going and you're going and you're going, like I'd go until I faltered, I'd hit the wall. And I was the original yes, what was the question? I'd say yes to something before I evaluated the time, and did I have it, and did I have the energy, did I have the wherewithal to do it, did I have the brains to do it? Even sometimes I take on things that I never should have taken on because they weren't in my wheelhouse, and I'm having this major learning curve just to do something because I said I would do it. So it's okay to create time for yourself. It's okay to say, hey, this doesn't move me where I need to go, so I'm not going to do it.
Thank you for that, because that's certainly something that, as I have been, certainly through 2020 and now into 2021, made some choices to prioritize my family and prioritize some of my own personal projects, right? Projects that I'm like, why is this still on the shelf when I could be putting some time, effort, and energy into this particular project? And it's encouraging to know that I'm not the only one that said, yes to way too many things. And no is a complete sentence. No.
In fact, there's the book on that.
Running too fast.
Running too fast. And that's
the books, Bob. Are they all on Amazon, or where do you have them?
Yeah, they're all on Amazon. You can get them on Amazon. You can also get them on Smashwords. Okay. The ebooks are on Smashwords, which goes on to Barnes and Noble, Diesel, Apple Tunes, those kinds of things. And we're going to do some on Ingram, just because there's some places that Amazon doesn't reach right now. Because I know when my wife did her cookbook, daughters in Australia, and Amazon doesn't serve Australia as far as author copies and whatever. You can buy a book from Australia, but so she redid it on Ingram Spark, and then that's printed down there so the daughter can get some copies, and she sells them at the local market and whatever. So there's some of them selectively. I might move on to Ingram depending when I'm traveling and where I'm traveling to.
Well, there you go.
Amazon's getting better now. I mean, like, for example, last year when I was going to be speaking in Barcelona in April, Amazon, I can print books in Spain in English or Spanish, what I suppose, in Spain, and have them delivered, because I did that for the people from PSA Spain. I had copies of, where was it again? The one behind me here, done in Spain, and I ordered some so they could give them away at their chapter meeting the month before I was coming. And then I ordered some more for me. I ordered them the same day, from Amazon, the same place in Amazon. One was printed, and he got his in less than a week. Mine took 3 weeks.
That's
so part of it is, depending where you're going, if you can service it, then it's nice to be able to drop ship, and you're not having to carry a suitcase full of books.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that I've been really working on is I am an Amazon associate. So we'll make sure that we have all of those links down below, so it's nice and easy. And of course, we can work on some cross promotion, because that's exciting here.
Always good to do that.
Right? It's just, it fascinates me. Even, someone asked me the other day, they're like, why an online magazine? And I said, well, it's more of an online publication.
Yeah.
And I said, for me, it's because we are not a physical publication that went online. We're an online publication that might eventually go to print. So
Yeah.
we're using the platform very differently for, analytics and, clicks and pages and what's working. So I think that's important in today's day and age. It's noisy out there. So if we're putting out,
Well, yeah.
I want to make
Well,
sure
and some of the
right place.
trends are a lot of the print magazines and stuff are going online.
Yeah.
Newspapers, print magazines. I mean, they're still doing some of their print versions, or some of them not even doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Because they can serve their public and getting their message out through a different medium. I mean, you think about it. 20 years ago, we couldn't do any of this. We couldn't be doing this.
We couldn't be doing this. Yeah, exactly.
We couldn't be doing this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I could pick up the phone and we could talk, and we could record. We could do that kind of a podcast 20 years ago. We couldn't do something where you and I could see each other and actually have a conversation.
Which is way more fun.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun, and that's the whole point. Is you have to work with the technology where it is in your life, and as the technology changes, if you're smart, you'll change as well. I mean, it's like with me with the books. I still do print books because, like this one, I created it essentially as an ebook for an online training program, but I designed it so that I could print it because I like to hold it.
I do too.
So some of the ones. Some of the ones that I've done, like this one, that's another small little book. That is because I want to hold it. Although, if somebody wants
one right now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Been a little love, as you can tell.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole point. I enjoy reading.
Yeah.
But
my dad used to, and still does, I guess, highlight and make notes in the margin, which I always loved. And then I would get his books. I would typically steal from his stash. That's where I got some of the best books, right? How to Win Friends, Influence People, and that sort of thing. And I loved turning a page and being like, "Ooh, what did Dad like on this page? What did he find interesting?" And some of my books have been passed on, and they come back, and I tell people, write in them, like, feel free to let me know what is intrigued. I'm like, what did you like about this? Yeah.
And well, that's the whole point. That helps you learn too.
Yes.
If you underline something or highlight something, it brings it into your brain and helps you anchor that, which is a good learning tool. Plus, it makes it yours. It's personal.
It's very personal.
So I say to people, if you buy a book, I'll autograph it, put your name in it too, because it's your book now. Yeah. I may have written it, but now it's your book.
Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that however had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee. But I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's M-O-D-E-R-E, modere.ca or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much and have a great rest of the listen. I get two, and then I get one for me and one for Dad because we just share this love of,
cool.
books. Yeah. Well, I mean, he was my principal, right? I was home educated. So he was the one who made me write my essays and then write them for speaking. And that's had such a huge impact on me. And I tease him all the time. I don't know if he's ever listened to any of my podcasts, but I think I'm like, Dad, I mention you like at least once, once all the time. But you do become the sum. And he's been certainly, my parents and I are still close. And so still part of that.
That's important. I mean, that's the thing. It's like my mom was my first editor, my first proofreader. I tell people jokingly, that she was an English teacher.
Oh.
And I tell them joking, this part isn't true. I'd say she'd even send back my letters corrected, in red ink. She never did that, but she did proof and read every single book I did for the first 4 that I did while she was still alive. And I still remember my dad had passed away, and I think I was working on my 4th one, converting my notes into a spiral bound notebook. And she sat there and was reading it. I'm watching and watching and watching what she's doing, and she's making noises and she's reading. And she closes it and looks at me and goes, "Where'd you learn to do this? We never saw this skill in school." And I said, "Well, in school, I had to write stuff other people wanted, not stuff I wanted."
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
That's a big difference. I know that my writing style when I was at university was often criticized, but then now that I'm writing what I'm writing, I'm like, well, this is good. But yeah, it was definitely not for what I was studying at the time. But that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing is, if you're doing something that you're writing because you've got some energy in it, some passion in it, it may not be as articulate as you like, but that's where you have a good editor. But it's going to be better because you got you into it. It's like when you put yourself into something, it becomes better. It becomes imbibed with the energy that you put into it, and that makes it better. Whether you're running a book or building a birdhouse, I did that 2 weeks ago. I built 13,
those were great
13 birdhouses just to, because some of the ones that we buy are starting to fall apart. So I thought Irene found me a template, and so I got one done, and it worked, and including a thing on the side of the door so it would open so you could clean it out. And I thought, okay, now I know what I'm doing. I in about 3 days I did 13 of them, and so now we have them up around the property, and hopefully the birds will find them and move in. And have their baby. And it kept me busy for about 3 days. So, which is why Irene did it. She said, "Here, go play in the garage, be a grumpy old man and make birdhouses."
Go be a grumpy old man. I like that.
Well, actually, that was just
like 25 books. You need to go into something else. Go do build birdhouses.
Yeah, what the heck, Well, in the summertime, I'd build stuff because I never knew how to do that growing up. And when I moved out here 20 years ago. I learned how to build. I'm not a finished carpenter, but I'm a good solid carpenter. When I build something, it's solid and stable, and it's going to be here for a long time. It's fun to look. Like she just started working on her plants in the greenhouse that I built her when I rebuilt the back deck. There was one area that was just sort of a junky area that crap would go into, and I said, well, how about if I close that in, put some screens and windows, and turn it into a greenhouse for her. So she got a little heater in there, and she cranks it up, and it keeps nice temperature, and she gets all these little seedlings. And then, partway through the summer, we have flowers all over the property. And it's just fun. Yeah, it's just fun. I like to have fun.
Right, yeah, and stay busy, which I
Well,
think is
yeah.
something that has such an impact, but we're used to being so busy. My friends are like, "You clear your schedule and then you fill it up again." I was like, "Yeah, well, that's the entrepreneur."
Well, and I think that's the key is some of us are built that way.
Yes.
And I think if you understand that, you just as you get older, you just get wiser in terms of what are you going to fill it with. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna, it's like I can't remember the phrase now. Something about the job is going to take as long as you allow it
Yeah.
to take, and it's going to expand or contract based on the amount of time. But
Mhm.
so if you know you only have an infinite amount of time, then you're going to start selecting what fits in there,
Yeah.
and so that you fill your life with better stuff.
Yes.
You know, you
Less
know,
stuff, right? I live very
yeah,
minimalist, and I
yeah.
appreciate it because I feel like it gave me more space for not stuff, but experiences for sure, which are
I'd be fine with minimalism if it wasn't for books.
yes. You may still need I can see the tiny house now, right? And it'd be like this whole little section would be like, and the library,
Yeah, exactly.
Live
Well,
the
I mean, you
small.
take a look at it. I mean, you've got one bookshelf here. I've got
Yeah.
three
I know
above
there's
my
some
three
above your
above my
head, and I
head,
know there's some over
and
there.
I've got three here. The bottom one is with the folders and stuff you need
Yeah.
for the business, but there's two more bookshelves on top of that. Plus
Mhm.
there's bookshelves all around my hot tub downstairs full of
Oh,
books.
that's awesome.
It's just my wife cringes when she thinks if you die first, she's got to deal with all this.
You gotta deal with all the
And
books.
I'm saying I'm hoping I do because I don't want to have to deal with it.
All books. Are any of them in large print for our
No,
friend?
no, not yet. Sadly, I'm getting to that point where, sometimes I need these things.
Oh, oh,
I usually use a lot of times when I'm on the computer just to keep the
yeah.
strain off my eyes.
Yeah.
It's like these ones are prescription, but lots of times I just buy the readers that are the 1.0s because it just takes the pressure off when you're sitting in front of a computer with the lights and stuff. Um, but I can still read down easily 9 or 10 point easily. But I'm sure the time will come where I'm going to need the big print. In which case, then I'll switch. In which case, then I could be doing books. This book will become as big as that book.
Exactly, it'll be much bigger.
Because it'll be 14 point. It'll be large print. Actually, that's an idea.
He's like, oh, we just had an idea.
I should redo all of these large print for.
Mhm.
This would have to become 2 books, or actually, I could do it, and then just don't carry it. In other words, print one for me. But people could buy it. That's a different story than me trying to mail them one. Actually, that's a good idea. I may just put that on my list. Do a
There you
series
go.
of large print.
Give you something else to do.
Yeah, keep me off the streets.
Well, I know we could talk for forever, Bob, but I mean, what's next for you? What's something we could leave our listeners with? I mean, it's a weird year, right? I would say normally, how
Yeah.
do we, get in touch with you? But I guess what's one thing that we could leave with people?
Well, if they want to get in touch with me, they can do that through either my publishing house, which is successpublications.ca,
Cool.
or my speaking business, which is ideaman.net. That's the 2 websites that'll find me. And what's next? Hopefully some travel.
Yeah.
It may not be until fall, but
Yeah.
like when I got my COVID shot on Monday, I thought, okay, that's one step closer to being able to hearing those magic words. This is your captain speaking.
This is your captain speaking.
Please fasten your seat belts. Put your seat fronts forward and put your trays away because we're taking off. We're going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That'll happen. It's just that's just part of what drives me. I'd rather leave with a lot of memories than just a lot of stuff.
I agree.
And the memories are what you make as you travel through life. And for me, the traveling is part of that is the people I meet. I collect friends like other people collect junk.
I've noticed this about you. It's like, yeah, it's been quite fun to observe that.
There's a lot of amazing people in the world.
Yeah.
And, I jokingly say some of them I've even met.
Some of them I've even met. Yes.
Well, some of them I've done stuff like this with, where we've connected because of Toastmasters or one of the speaking associations, and then eventually you get to be in the same conference, and they go, "Hi, I know you." I go, "Really? Yeah, I've been following you for years." But I said, "Well, am I better now than I was then, or what?"
Have I improved, or am I getting better? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be going downhill. I'm not old enough for that yet.
You're too young to be going downhill, Bob.
Yeah. No, life is speeding up because you're getting closer to that goal line, but I hope I'm not going downhill. And so far physically I'm doing good. Mentally that's doubtful, but I think I'm doing okay there too. Keep the brain active. I mean, that's one thing I see that, again, with watching old people, is people get old because they start thinking old.
Yes.
And they stop doing things, and they start just vegetating. I watched that with my neighbor next door here, who died at 99. And he was still very active at about 96. He was an older man, and he had a lot of physical problems, but he lived at home. He had a son that lived across the alley, and two grandsons that lived across the alley, and friends like me. And we would take him for lunch and for coffee and whatever. And the last couple of years, I started to watch him going downhill because he couldn't do anything. He was getting dangerous on the mower, on the riding mower, because he was cutting down trees and getting stuck on the culvert and whatever. So they wouldn't let him do that anymore. And the county changed it so he couldn't burn, because Tuesdays was his day to burn newspapers, And then Wednesday, Thursday, he would cut grass in the two properties, and he couldn't do anything. And I watched his attitude change. His attitude used to be, when I first met him, well, so far, so good. This old gravelly voice. And after a while, it was, rah, 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 and it just went downhill. And I thought, I never want to do that. I want to be there, falling off the building, going 13th floor. Well, so far, so good.
So far, so good.
Maybe I'm going to invent a parachute on the next 12 floors,
Exactly.
Who knows? But that's the whole point of this, is encouraging people to live where they are, but to dream about where they want to go. And because you can put those together if you want. People say, well, you've done all these things. And I go, yeah, and you could too.
Yes.
There's very little that I've done that other people couldn't do if they're willing to put the time and effort into it that I have. Like with the speaking and the writing, it didn't happen overnight. Like I was saying earlier, I've got 2 stacks of books because I've been doing stuff. There's the one stack that, that's like, 20 years worth of writing. And then another stack, which was like, 30 days of writing, and they're about the same height.
Yes.
But the difference is the leverage of ability.
Yes.
In the skill set from learning how to do something. It was like it took me a lot longer to build that first birdhouse than it did to build the other 12.
Yes.
Because I needed to learn what I was doing and go, oh, okay, well, this goes here, and you just screw this and put a nail here, and you glue this, and then that's how the roof goes, and then after you got it together, I went, okay, that makes sense. So next time I'll do it this way, and that'll like click, click, click. And that's how people evolve.
Yeah.
And I think people have to give themselves permission to be a beginner, because every one of us started at the beginning at one time in everything. And nobody started off being, even people who are so-called child prodigies didn't start off amazing.
No.
They may have had a shorter learning curve than some of us, but they still started off screwing up.
Yes.
Until they became amazing.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what we need to do, is encourage people to not stop. If you didn't do it right, that's okay. What can you learn to do better? And you say to yourself those magic words, next time. Next time.
I love it. Well, Bob, thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine.
Enjoyed spending some time with you with the camera on. And it was really fun. For my listeners, you know the drill. Yeah, if you got value out of this, the biggest high five you can give us is to like, share, comment, subscribe. Of course, check out the show notes. All of the links for either to connect with Bob or to grab one of his books will be down there, so that it's easy for you to connect with him and to get your hands on what he was sharing today. And again, Bob, thank you so much. I really enjoyed today.
Pleasure's mine, Candice. Anytime.